Good morning. You're listening to Blaine's World Show, heard each Wednesday here on WPVM LP in Asheville, North Carolina. You can also listen online at WPVMFM.org and watch us on WPVM's Facebook page. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield, and I'm here in my Zoom studio in lovely downtown Fairview, North Carolina. And each week we focus on the Asheville theater scene, as well as on positive news and information about people and organizations in both Western North Carolina and throughout the country. And toward that end, it's my pleasure to introduce my first guest today, and he is Anthony, and help me with the last name, Anthony?
Mikolojeski.
Mikolojeski.
That's correct. You got it.
I'm really pleased that Anthony gave me another way to introduce himself, and he is also known as the Asheville Medium. So if it's okay with you, I'll just kind of say Anthony, the Asheville Medium.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Great. And you can also, Anthony, wave to all your fans and friends on Facebook. So whoever's watching, it's Anthony. And Anthony, I'm really excited to have you on board, Anthony, because I have to tell you, I've been doing the show for a bunch of years in Asheville. I've done shows in other parts of the country as well. And you were absolutely the first medium I've had on the air. So
wonderful.
I'm really excited about this. And Anthony, as I mentioned, is a psychic medium, and he's had spiritual visitations since childhood, which led him to research those types of experiences he's had in his life. Through extensive education, he became more confident with his abilities to understand his true life purpose. Anthony connects you with your friends and loved ones in the spirit world and relays loving messages to his clients pertaining to love, joy, guidance, forgiveness, and mostly healing. And the question I ask Anthony when I first meet somebody is, you grew up where?
Well, I grew up in northern Michigan, northeast Michigan, in a rural area, and my parents had a restaurant and bar business for almost 30 years, and so I was raised in kind of a rural area. I was raised in the Catholic faith. My mom had some type of abilities when I was growing up that she shared with me. She was a very devout Catholic, but at the same time gave me an awareness that there are things in the world that we can't explain just from her experiences. And my dad's grandmother, the same thing. She used to be very intuitive, telling me a lot of things. She says, you're going to really do something special when you get older, and I'm not sure what it is, but it's going to be quite different. So I've always kept that in the back of my mind.
But you knew at that time, then you didn't want to be in the food and restaurant business?
No, I did work there though.
So as a little kid then, so that's kind of interesting. You were sort of introduced to the field, but when did you decide you wanted to become a kind of a medium on a full-time basis?
Well, like you said earlier, I had these childhood experiences. I had visitations from people in the spirit world. And what happened was I thought they were imaginary friends, and I mentioned it to my parents, and they were like, oh, it's just imaginary friends. And my siblings are much older than myself, so I was kind of raised as an only child, so to speak, even though I have siblings. And these experiences kept increasing as I got older, and my mom had been there a few times sharing the same experience with me, so she was witnessing it. And then it stopped for a while. Like in my later teenage years, it stopped for a while, and then in my, I'd say, early to mid 20s, it started to ramp up again. And it just got to a point where I was saying to myself, why is this happening to me, and why me? And no one else is experiencing these things. And I think it's a normal reaction for someone to say to themselves, why is this happening to me? Am I crazy? I mean, but I had premonitions that came true, and I've had I don't know if you know this, Blaine, but I've been in the hair industry for 36 years, and I still do hair a couple days a week. What happened is, through my education of studying hair, I used to work in London, England, and I worked for Tony and Guy and Sassoon's, and I trained there as well. And so I was very serious, a very analytical person, taking my life in the hair industry very seriously. I've done fashion shows, you name it. So for all this spiritual stuff to be in the way, it was kind of a nuisance. And so I was referred to a colleague for me to go to see a medium. And she told me, she says, the reason why all these spirits are around you is they're trying to get your attention, Anthony, because you are a medium.
Oh, interesting.
And I said, there's no way. And I believe everything that you said earlier was correct. And I told her, I says, but I am not going to be doing this for a living. And she says, you are. And she says, you remember me when I tell you this. And so, years went on, and then I went to go see another medium that, I mean, we're talking like 15 years later, and she said exactly the same thing. And I thought to myself, wow. And so with working with clients, it got to a point where I was able to see their relatives come forward, giving me messages or stories. I was able to see some of the things that were going on in people's lives. And then, 15 minutes later in the conversation, they would share with me what I heard 15 minutes prior.
I was going to say that from a standpoint of doing hair, it must have been an interesting experience as well. That you'd be speaking to somebody, and then did you come across thoughts in your mind, or thoughts that like you said, they may be thinking as well?
Yes, and I was afraid to ever mention it to a client because
Sure.
I did that a couple times, and it freaked somebody out quite bad. And it was a first time client, so I never saw her after that. But it was years and years ago. But professionally, you don't do that. I mean, you want to address a client that comes to you for a reading. Someone who comes to me for a reading would want healing or closure. They'd want to know that their relatives are doing great in the afterworld. It's about them sharing their experiences. I'm an evidential medium, so I bring the evidence to prove who these people are, and they're only experiences that you would have shared together with that loved one. So it's really a beautiful experience. Sometimes we get clients who have a loved one who might have not been such a loving father or a loving brother or mother or so on and so forth. And there might have been some traumatic situations there. In that case, the type of work that I do takes a lot of bravery, because you're, handling some sensitive topics.
Well, I like what you told me. I like what you said about it when we were discussing this off the air, that it's one thing if you're working on a one-to-one basis, and I guess you do a lot of that, but you also do some work in a public setting as well?
I do public demonstration galleries where I get in front of an audience and I connect with the spirit world. And the whole process is that it's an audience participation. So what I do is I'm able to see the person in the spirit world clairaudiently, or hear them clairaudiently, excuse me, clairvoyantly. And they'll describe their self, how they pass, the relationship with the person in the audience, as far as who they're trying to contact or who they're trying to give the message to. It's my job as the medium. I'm just a radio frequency. So I'm the vessel that the spirit world is using to get the information out.
I was going to say, is that tougher in a group setting, as opposed to if you're working with me on a one-to-one basis, you're just dealing with me? Then in a group setting, you have, and we're going to be talking, well, you can mention you're going to be in Hendersonville this week, I think.
Yes, May 15th.
Right. Is that more difficult for you to do, that all of a sudden you have a couple of different voices coming in?
It is different, because you have, first of all, if you have 50 to 100 people, well, then you have that many eyes looking at you. So your confidence level shrinks down. And it's just really a hairline fraction of your analytical mind getting in the way of your mediumship. And I used to be a very analytical person. So for me to be doing this, is amazing. So yes, the answer to your question, it is different, but it's my job as the medium to make sure that they come one at a time, that they don't overtalk each other, and that that they come in one at a time, and I give the information, and we're able to determine who the relative is by the evidence that they provide.
If you had your preference, do you prefer working with someone on a one-to-one basis or a group setting?
I love it both.
Okay, good answer.
It's the most fulfilling thing I've ever done in my life, to be honest with you.
Do you ever watch the show Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist?
I have not. No, I'm sorry.
Have you heard about it?
I have heard about it.
Yeah, you have to watch it because it reminds me a little talking to you. She hears, as she's doing her daily stuff, she hears voices coming at her. It seems sort of catch the show sometime. You might enjoy it.
I see.
Does that happen to you also, that you'll be going through your daily life, and do you sometimes hear from other people?
Yes. The answer to that is, well, I've taken some advanced education, so let me give you a background. I've studied with some of the best mediums in the UK and the United States, and my education took me back to London to study at Arthur Findlay College, and so that was for advanced training, and then I've taken some advanced training after that as well. And basically, the training, I've always been a medium since a child, but the training, there's a lot that that's involved with it. It's professionalism, and what that details is what to do and what not to do in like an audience situation, side chair manner, being on time for your client. I think that confidentiality is a big thing, because you're dealing with not only the lives of the people here in the spirit world that are very much alive, like you and I are. They're just in a different phase of existence, or a different, like a different plane of existence. So there's a lot of responsibility that is involved, and dealing with people's, personal problems that result from the past or the present. And, you have to be patient, compassionate, empathetic, kind, gentle, and I think there has to be dignity behind what you do. So I love doing both. I love the difference in doing a platform mediumship versus doing a one-on-one. A platform mediumship, we're not going to get into very sensitive topics of detail, because we certainly don't want to intimidate somebody in the audience, and we don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, and we don't want to share any personal information that the whole community needs to know about that is very sensitive or personal. So that would be saved for more one-on-one reading in my personal office.
Now, can everybody be reached? Again, you're teaching me, so I appreciate this. Can everybody be reached in the spirit world? So I came to you on a one-to-one basis, and I want to find out information. I can be receptive to it. You can be receptive to it. But is it possible the other person in the spirit world might not be receptive to it?
Yes, it's not about being receptive. It's about whether the spirit world is in control of who comes through. So, like for example, today I did readings, and then yesterday I had a full day of readings. And I had this group setting yesterday with 3 people, and they had 6 relatives come through within 60 minutes of their session. And they were just lovely and thrilled with the whole thing. And the mother of the group wanted to hear from her father, and I just couldn't connect with him. And I just said to her, he could be in a healing process right now in the spirit world, or he might not be ready to come through to communicate, or it might not be important for you to hear from him right now. I don't really have the answer for that, but the spirit world does control that. I would say 99% of the time when I have a client that says, well, I'd like to hear from somebody that we reached, I usually save that extra time at the end of my session, to let them know, I can try to connect with that person, and generally I can. But there has been times where no, we're not getting that person coming through.
Well, I mean, that's pretty cool though, in terms of you being honest with your clients, because
You
rather than
have
just
to be.
right, I mean, just make something up. You're telling them. Would sometimes, if that happened, Anthony, does it ever make sense for the person to come back later or try it a month later, 6 months later? Does that ever happen?
Oh yeah. I typically don't recommend someone coming for another reading really soon if they've had especially a 60-minute or a 90-minute reading. You really don't need to come in for a reading with me for at least a year. Now, if we have not contacted someone that you've been wanting to reach, we could try, connecting again and see if we can connect with that loved one or friend. But if we can't, I just simply have to give their money back, because that's just a professional thing to do.
Talk about to me, as somebody who's never worked with a medium before. You'll be the first one if we go that route down the road. What do I accomplish? Like, if I have a meeting with you, an appointment, what am I trying to do at that meeting? What's the purpose of it?
The purpose of it is, it could be a variety of things. A client will come in just to find out if their relative is, around them. They want to have that love connection again with their relative, to make sure that they're okay. Then there's the client that didn't have closure without saying goodbye because of distance, or because of a tragic illness or tragic death, and they weren't there to say goodbye or have their last words. That is an important thing for someone. The other thing is, if they had a really horrible relationship with that specific person in the spirit world, it could be emotionally devastating, could be physical. It could be emotional, physical, or I'm trying to think here. What else? Anything that would be traumatic to someone that they didn't have closure, and they wanted to know why their relationship was either horrible or abusive, and why did it happen. What happens is that the person in the spirit world will come forward and tell me those details. It's my job as the medium to get the details of the situation, of the relationship. What comes forward is, they will say, "I'm sorry, and please forgive me. I take full responsibility of what I did to you, and I'm sorry that I did this to you. Please forgive me. Would you forgive me?" And so there's a simultaneous healing going on here in the spirit world, and then there's a healing going on here in front of my client, with my client in front of me, I should say. And of course, that healing for my client's not going to be instantaneous, but over a period of time, healing sometimes takes time, especially if there's abuse.
Just listening to you, it's like I'm getting almost like emotional in terms of, and that's kind of a good thing. And that seems to be a kind of a very positive experience, in large part. Could be, especially if you're going through this. If I am going to meet with you, do I prepare with kind of like a couple of people I want to communicate with? Is that how it works?
Yes, I always recommend that my clients try to reach out to their loved ones that they're looking to contact. Now, when someone comes in for a reading with me, I always say to them to bring to write down 5 important questions on a piece of paper, and bring that with him on the day of the reading, but do not share with me. Allow me to do my work and have
Very
that
cool.
come out first. I do tell my clients to really just give me yes, no, maybe, and I don't know answers, because I don't like the client to feed into the reading. The less information I know, the better off the reading is, and the more validated it is. And I know that sometimes clients get excited and they like to share they want to be part of the mediumship reading, but that's not what you're paying for. You're paying for me to connect with your loved one or friend or acquaintance. And they're supposed to provide me the information to give to you, not the other way around.
Now, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but just curious, if not you, I imagine there are other people who do this, and we know somebody who actually does, communicates with animals. You know,
Oh, yes.
do you do that at all?
I do. I can connect with animals in the spirit world, and I can connect with your animals here in the physical world.
Interesting. And that's, I guess, kind of a different experience, because animals are not, you know, speaking to you back, but they're communicating in their own way, I guess.
They do. Of course, they don't speak, but they do give me signs and symbols, and you know, they have a different language than their own. But yes, that's how they communicate.
Very exciting. Talk a little bit, Anthony, too, now about your upcoming show, and be this week, but you're going to be in Hendersonville, and we call it an evening with what we call an evening with spirit. I love it. And it's going to be with Anthony, the Asheville Mystic. I like that. Downtown Hendersonville on the 15th. Where is that, and what's that about?
Well, it's in downtown Hendersonville. The theater is the Center for Arts and Entertainment, and it's on May the 15th from 7 to 9 p.m. And you can get tickets through the center there in Hendersonville, or you can go to my website, the Asheville Medium, and click on my upcoming events on my homepage, and you can purchase tickets. It'll take you right to the link.
Okay, so that's going to I think that's the easiest way for people to remember it, the AshevilleMedium.com.
Yes.
And so they buy a ticket for this event, and what's going to happen at the event itself?
Well, I'm going to get on stage. I don't know if you've ever seen John Edward get on stage.
Okay.
He's a medium. I will be presenting the same type of atmosphere. I will be connecting with loved ones that will come forward. I will describe them and talk about how they passed, talk about their traits, their hobbies, their personality. I will ask the audience to raise their hands if they, with that amount of evidence, I should usually have 1 or 2 or maybe 3 hands that can relate to that information. And I will go to each person and I'll say, well, how much of this information can you relate to? Someone will say, well, I could take 100% of it. The other person will say, well, I could take 80%. And the other person will say, well, I have 80%. So it's my job as the medium. I'd go back to the loved one here in the spirit world and say, well, tell me some information or an experience that would put down those 2 hands. So I know which person I'm supposed to work with. So he will tell me, or she will tell me, a specific event or a specific situation that only that one person in the audience would know. And that way I would know who I'm supposed to work with. And the other 2 hands would come down. I would now give a couple more pieces of evidence from that loved one and their experiences that they shared together. This would be something personal that only that person in the audience would remember. It wouldn't be anything that you can Google. There's no way you could research it. It's a personal experience, or maybe a saying, or maybe it's a gesture. But I usually have to bring up 2 or 3 pieces of evidence, and then there's always a healing message of why the person's come through, and that has to do with what's pertinent to the person in the audience, what's going on in their life currently. So there'll be some type of message from the spirit world acknowledging what's going on in their life, and there either be some type of healing or closure or reassurance that that person's been around.
So I guess if people are interested in coming to this, and I'm certainly going to encourage them to check it out, I think 2 things that they need to do, correct me if I'm wrong, but one, they should be coming there as if they'd want to participate, or they'd like to participate, as opposed to just sit back. You want them to actually get involved in this if they're interested?
Yeah, well, it's a random situation. The spirit world has a control of who comes through. So I do it traditionally and classically, where I take one person at a time who comes through in the spirit world, and I probably work with each person. I try to work with each person randomly in the audience for about 10 to 12 minutes to get that information down, and then I'm on to the next person. So not everybody will get a reading, but what's going to be the great experience is to see how a medium works, to understand that there is life after death, and that love never dies. And you get that feeling from other people's experiences by watching and observing. And I think under those experiences that you witness, you're able to maybe even take a little bit of that to apply to your own life. So it's really quite beautiful. It's proof that miracles and wonderful things happen in the world today, and I truly believe that.
It also sounds to me as if another recommendation might be that people might want to bring with them a tissue or a handkerchief of some sort, because I have a hunch for some people it's just kind of a very emotional experience.
Yes, it can be. And we will have Kleenex boxes there. But it's I have to say, Blaine, we do touch base on sometimes some sensitive issues, and it can be emotional for people. But I always try to bring some humor to it from them in the spirit world. There has to be some uplifting or inspirational speaking coming from the spirit world to make each message uplifting and loving. And even if it's been not a great relationship between this person and the spirit world, and I'm saying this happens, because the majority of mediumship is about healing. So when we're talking about healing emotionally, we're talking about some sensitive topics. So you have to handle it very, very delicately, but at the same time, I want to give that compassion and love and healing behind behind those topics. Does that make sense to you?
It does, and leads to maybe a final question here, that if people can't make the show, and it's going to be a demonstration on the 15th of May at the downtown Hendersonville, the Center for?
The Center for Art and Entertainment.
If people can't make that session, who should sign up for like an individual reading, either with you or conceivably, hate to mention another medium, but who is right? Who should be getting a reading, or what's a quality that they should be looking for or seeking through a reading?
Are you asking me as far as how do you look for a professional medium? Is that
more so? No, more so in terms of, I thought this was an interesting discussion, which I am, and I wanted to get a reading. What would be what do I want to accomplish out of the reading? Why should I contact you, for example, to do what?
Well, I think it has to do for your own well-being. I mean, it's the reading isn't about me. The reading is about you.
Right.
And so you have to remember, I'm just the vessel for the spirit world. I'm the radio frequency. I'm the voice box. It's their gift that flows through me. I'm not in charge of the spirit world. They're in charge of me. That's how that works. I mean, as far as what comes through, I'm the only one. I'm the person who facilitates it. I'm the one that connects to hear them, and they bring down their level, and that's how I connect. The answer I would give you would be it has to be a personal curiosity. I think it's reconnecting with a loved one again that you want to know is all right. I think again, it's about healing. It's about closure. Sometimes the spirit world has a lot to say as far as I know and I understand the direction or the choices you made in your life, and I get it now, and you don't have to worry, and that is so freeing for that client to hear that, because there are certain things that people hold on to they're broken, you know. They can be broken from a marriage, they can be broken from a death of a parent, and they seem to not being able to move on 100%. And this allows them to have that healing, closure, reassurance, and maybe satisfaction to know that I can now move forward.
Anthony, if any of our listeners or viewers, if they're watching on Facebook Live, want to get in touch with you, best bet is to do what?
The best bet is to go through my website. All of my appointments are booked through my website. You can email me through my website if you have any questions. But as far as a reading goes, all the readings are booked through my website.
And the website is?
At AshevilleMedium.com.
Okay. So again, if you want to contact Anthony, either for a reading or in addition to find out more about the evening coming up in Hendersonville on the 15th, AshevilleMedium.com. I'd like to thank you for being my guest this first half hour on the Blaine's World Show. It's the Asheville Medium, and it's Anthony.
Mikolojeski.
Okay, we'll go with the Asheville Medium. Thanks, Anthony, for being my guest. Hope to speak to you sometime in the future. I really appreciate it.
It's been an honor. Thank you so much for inviting me on your show, and thank you all for listening.
Okay, appreciate it. As Anthony works his way out of the studio here, or if I can make him disappear, let's see if we can do this. I'd like to mention, as our next guest works his way into the Zoom studio, that they're listening to WPVM. WPVM's mission is to help support the community through programming that cultivates dialogue to inform and entertain. The station provides the medium for artists, business, community leaders, and nonprofits to share their voice on live radio. Listeners are invited to help support WPVM's efforts by making a tax-deductible contribution. You can do so by going to the website, wpvmfm.org, and looking at the donate option in the upper right-hand corner. It's next my pleasure to introduce Jessica Whitehill, and Jessica's with Jewish Family Services of WNC, and she's executive director for how much longer, Jessica?
Oh, I think another 4.5 weeks. Something.
Okay, well, unfortunately, Jessica is moving from the area, so it's our loss, Jessica. Welcome aboard, Jessica, again for being us on the second time this on the Blaine's World Show. And you can wave to all your friends and fans and friends again in Facebook who are listening.
Hi, everyone.
Okay, and Jessica has been the executive director of Jewish Family Services of WNC since July 1, 2019. Before joining JFS, Jessica held positions at Our Voice and ABCCM, spent 13 years as a newspaper reporter. She has degrees from Barnard College and the Columbia University Graduate School of Journalism, has lived in Asheville with her husband and daughter for more than 7 years. And as I mentioned, Jessica, I think it's unfortunate that you will be moving, but it's kind of something exciting. What's happening?
Well, my husband took a position as the president and CEO of a United Arts Fund in Canton, Ohio. It actually covers the county that Canton is in, which is Stark County. And it's about an hour south of Cleveland. A lot of people know Canton because it's the location of the Pro Football Hall.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm really excited about our first induction week in August.
Oh, okay. Are you?
I'm a big football fan, so I'm excited to be in Canton.
And we were talking about you're an Eagles fan still?
Well, more of a Washington fan because
Okay.
that's really where I grew up. But I just love pro football is my thing. That's my favorite of all the sports.
Okay. Well, anyway, like I said, it really will be our loss, I think, Jessica, to not have you in the Asheville area, because I think you've done some really incredible things with the organization in just a relatively short period of time. And that kind of segues into something we're going to talk about tonight a little bit. But I think this coming week, right, it's the Jewish Family Services of WNC is having an exciting event. What's that event?
So tomorrow night at 7 o'clock on Facebook Live, just like we are right now, we are hosting our second Truly Trivial, which is a virtual trivia game fundraiser. We did the same thing last June, and this came out of an in-person event we had planned for June of 2020. And then when the COVID-19 pandemic hit, we obviously couldn't do a large in-person fundraiser. So like many nonprofits, we really had to pivot quickly. We came up with the idea of a trivia game. I am a huge trivia fan. I love playing trivia. This was not my idea. A lot of my family have been asking me, you just wanted to play trivia. But we had a lot of fun last June with it. The questions are sort of based in some Jewish pop culture, but you do not have to be Jewish to know the questions, know the answers. And I try to make it very accessible to everyone. And it's exciting. We've added some couple of new little twists this year. And I think it'll be a lot of fun. And of course it's a fundraiser. So we're trying to really, raise money to support our programs and services.
We'll talk about both last year and this year. When you talk about last year, this is the first year you ever did this. How many teams, or do people enter this as in teams or individuals?
You can enter. I think we had about 25 screens that were playing. So, there could have been one person, there could have been 3 or 4 people. I know one person who had 5 or 6 people playing and watching in her house. So we don't really, it's tough with a virtual event to know exactly what your numbers are. But we're trying to really, increase our views this year, because that means increased fundraising, we hope, and increased awareness about your organization.
The nice thing about this, so you can participate in the event, but you don't have to necessarily participate in the trivia part of it. Is that correct? Can you watch it without participating?
Absolutely. And there's going to be a lot of fun things to do to watch. So we're incorporating some videos this year. We're having some celebrity guest question askers. I wonder who one of our celebrity guests might be.
Oh, so I'm so honored. But so I'll actually get to ask a question. I'm working with you on it. And that's so much fun. How many questions are there asked total?
We do 5 rounds. 5 rounds of 5 questions, and then we have a practice question. So it ends up being a lot of fun. It's probably a little over an hour, so not too long. And I'm sort of a co-host. We have an MC, Seth Kellum, who some people in the Jewish community know really well. He's a song leader and is the music director at Congregation Beth Tefillah. But Seth and I have known each other for a while, and so we have some pretty good banter going. So we try to make it a lot of fun.
By the way, if you can remember, I'll try to have Amy contact you. Give me Seth's contact information, because I'd like to interview him sometime for a show. It just sounds like it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, he would be great.
Okay, so I'd like to do that. But you mentioned this year, for example, there are going to be some twists to the event. For example, what would be one? That's something.
Well, so I think I was really thinking about our celebrity guests.
Okay.
We're going to intersperse some videos. We have someone making a whole brand new JFS video for us, which we're really grateful for, to really showcase everything that we did during the pandemic. And now that we're sort of moving towards the light a little bit, it feels like that, we're coming out of it and what we're going to be, how we're going to move forward. But one of the things I'm really excited about is we're going to have, as one of our celebrity guest question askers, our new executive director, Cindy Smith, who we announced a few weeks ago has accepted the job. So this is going to be a great way for us to introduce her to the community.
And you'll also give me Cindy's contact information. I'd like to, speak to her at a later show.
Oh, yeah.
But if I can mention, or you alluded to it, I'm very honored that Jessica asked me to be a celebrity guest host or whatever. But I'm sworn to secrecy, Jessica. I cannot tell anybody the question or the answer. I don't think I know the answer myself. But how do you go about getting the questions?
Well, I am really the person who's writing the questions. And last year, I got some advice from a gentleman in the community who is a big trivia fan. And so he gave me some really great jumping off points. And I've used that last year when I wrote the questions. I've referred back to that this year. but really they sort of come from me. And those people who know me, who watch this event, will see, oh yeah, she, you know, I've tried to work in references to my family. I had a Star Trek question last year, which was kind of a nod to my dad. I'm a big, in addition to being a big football fan, I'm also kind of an Olympics nut. So I try to work in the sports category. I try to work in like an Olympics question. I love James Bond movies, so I'm going to try to see if I could get one of those in this year.
What's really cool, it seems like you love a lot of different things, you know, so it's sort of like me. I have like a very eclectic range of interests. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, I think so. It's really helpful when you know, when you're playing trivia to have kind of a wide base of knowledge rather than a deep base of one thing. I don't know if that's a compliment to myself or not, but yeah, it's just fun. We just wanted a way to engage people and you know, do it virtually, where we're trying to raise money, but we can't do it in a traditional way.
Now talk about two things. One, talk about preparing for this. You know, is there anything anybody can do to prepare for this?
Well, I mean, you know, I have a few hints I can give you. May want to brush up on your Asheville tourist trivia. You know, I also am a big fan of the old movie stars, and many of them, you know, there were old movie stars who were Jewish and changed their names. I'm thinking in particular of a very famous actor who played a lot of gangster roles.
Is that Paul Muni?
Sorry?
Paul Muni?
No.
Edward G. Robinson?
Edward G. Robinson.
But
yes.
Paul Muni also, one of my favorite actors. Are you familiar with Paul Muni?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, a lot of actors who are Jewish seem to change their names, you know.
Yeah, you know, it's just it's easier to pronounce a sort of an anglicized name.
What was Edward G. Robinson's name? Do you know?
Oh, Emmanuel something. I've got it written down somewhere. You'll see tomorrow night. But yeah, so we have a Blaine's going to be asking a Saturday Night Live question. I just, in my research, learned that B. Arthur of Maude and Girls fame was Jewish. She passed away sadly, and you know, I'm a Golden Girls fan, so I thought, oh, there's a good something to mine for trivia questions.
Well, one of the things that's nice, though, Jessica, I'll say, makes it easier for people in the sense that you ask questions, but everybody will have a choice of options, answers. Meaning they don't have to, it's not going to be a blank slate kind of thing. They'll be able to, not open-ended, right?
Some of them are.
Oh, are they? Yeah.
A few of them are. I try to mix it up a little bit, but we're not trying to you know, we want people to have fun and win. We have some prizes. We have some gift cards, and a great prize from Biscuit Head. They are donating a mimosa tasting.
Oh, very nice.
So we want people to have fun and win. And we're not trying to give anyone a tough time here. So the fill in the blank questions are, you know, I try to make them very obvious.
What are some of the other prizes?
We've got cards this year, I believe, from 828 Pizzeria and a couple of other. We try to stick with restaurants because you know, that's something that we know Asheville people love their restaurants. You know, that's a great reputation of the city, the restaurants in the city. So
now, is your hope after you're no longer in the area? Do you think this will be an event that continues?
You know what? My hope is that we never have to do a virtual event again.
Oh, no, but not necessarily as a virtual event, but that people would come to the event. You know,
well, I hope that JFS is able to do an in-person event next year, or have at least one fundraiser a year.
This just seems like such a great thing, though. You've started a tradition of, you know, that it'd be great if it can continue, you know.
Yeah, if it can continue in some way. You know, JFS did a spring fundraiser for probably 6 or 7 years before I started. I was actually introduced at the last in-person fundraiser that JFS hosted, I'm sure will be some kind of fundraiser in some form. COVID has changed so much. So
Hopefully it'll be changing back in
yeah.
the not too distant future. Let me have you put me on the spot a little bit, because I kind of asked you off the air for some sample questions, and Jessica was very adamant. She said, I cannot tell you the questions from this year because she's hoping everybody's watching, but she doesn't want them to have the answers to this year's questions. But the exciting thing, all the questions this year are different than last year's.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. So everybody's starting from a clean slate. Put me on the spot a little bit, since you know the answers, and I'll try not to look. You gave me some suggested answers, not all of them, but take a few with me, see how I do on this.
Okay, so here's a question from last year's music category.
Okay.
Composer, conductor Leonard Bernstein, the son of Ukrainian Jewish parents, wrote the score for what 1960s movie musical? Was it A, Camelot, B, West Side Story, C, Thoroughly Modern Millie, or D, Oliver?
Not only do I know it's West Side Story, but West Side Story's coming back this year. I can't believe they're doing a remake of it.
I saw that. Yeah.
Did you see it on the Oscars? I don't know if you saw it.
I saw the mention of it. Yeah.
They did a little clip on it, and that would be a film. I don't know about you, Jessica. I don't see coming back a second time. I don't see the value of it. Frankly.
I agree.
But let me ask you on the questions last year. So there were 25 questions last year.
Mm-hmm.
Did anybody get all 25?
I don't think everyone did. And the reason is because last year we had an Asheville category.
Right.
So sort of like Asheville history. And that's really what, where people kind of fell behind a little bit, especially those who were playing who are not from Asheville. I mean, we tried to get this out as far as we could and had friends and family play in other places. So I think that Asheville category, there's no Asheville category this year.
But you point out a nice thing about the event is then the fact you don't have to be from Asheville to enter the event. You can be anywhere.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
So,
as long as you can get onto it, you're welcome. We love that. Yeah.
Onto Facebook Live. And by the way, we'll ask you to repeat it at the end of the show. But if people want to see the show, so it's tomorrow at what time?
Starts at 7:00.
Okay, and it'll end by around 8. How do they find it?
So you would go to www.facebook.com/JFSWNC, and you should see the notification that says we're live. And the trivia happens on a different platform, but we try to give everyone really great instructions on how to move back and forth. And it wasn't an issue last year. It's just one of those technical things with the virtual event.
Now, do I have to sign up in advance for this?
No, you do not.
Oh, cool.
If you'd like to, learn more, you can visit our website, which is jfswnc.org, where there's, place to go to learn more about it.
And they can also assume make a contribution there if they'd like.
Yes, absolutely. The event is free, and people can donate, whatever they want to support the programs.
That's very nice. So to participate, then you don't have to even make contribution. You can just watch and participate and sign up that night. Okay, very exciting. So I passed the first one. Let's go for the second one.
Okay. This is the one that I don't think you had the answer to. This was written, of course, we did this in June, so we know what happened a few months later. Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg was reportedly excited to receive the gift of a jersey from which sports team in 2019? A, Washington Nationals, B, St. Louis Blues, C, Kansas City Chiefs, or D, the U.S. national women's soccer team?
Oh boy, a couple possibilities. I would have guessed Washington.
That's a good guess, and guess that, which would make sense, but it was actually the U.S. national women's soccer team.
Okay, cool. Just an aside, I had a terrible thought with Ginsburg. It didn't happen. First of all, and some people said, sorry, she didn't sit down beforehand. But what I thought they should have done, you can't do it in the Jewish religion, unfortunately, but not have buried her. You know, I don't know, could you have done it not officially or something, but you know, that she was buried, unfortunately, not, she was buried shortly thereafter her death. And then they went crazy with the Supreme Court appointment. You know, what a shame. But talk about timing. But the soccer, that's interesting. She got a gift of a jersey from the U.S. National Women's Soccer Team. Then talk about, there are some New York, I like that you have music questions. This one I probably don't have a good guess on too, but give me a music question.
Okay, so I will read you the next one. Which 1980s rap group from New York City was groundbreaking for a number of reasons, including the fact that all three of its members are Jewish? A, Public Enemy, B, Salt and Pepper, C, Beastie Boys, and D, Run DMC.
Again, you catch me a little bit off here because I don't have much interest. You know, aside, I know how bad it is that, like, I watch the Grammys only because I don't listen to radio anymore. So I watch the Grammys once a year. I'll try to find out what's happening in the music world. So in this one, I'll also have no idea, but I didn't know there are three Jewish singers, Jewish singing in a rap group. I don't know, Run DMC.
It's actually the Beastie Boys.
Are you a Beastie Boys fan?
I mean, yes, I'm a child of the 80s. I think I heard the Beastie Boys at every bar and bat mitzvah.
See, that was not my era, you know.
Well, and you know, that's what I try to do. I try to variety of questions. So, you know, there's a question about West Side Story, which for someone who knows the answer to a question about the Beastie Boys, they might not know what the answer to this is. So I try really hard to appeal to a wide audience. So if you get one question wrong, you might get one right that, you know, someone else might reverse.
Well, it's so funny you say that because I think about that in terms of my music knowledge. I'm a child, I guess, of the 50s and 60s, you know, so I really followed music then. And then like nothing thereafter with the exception of show tunes, you know, and theater, you know, so I know that, but any other music. But it's funny you say that because I'll sometimes ask Amy, for example, my producer, a question and she'll have never heard of the group. You know, she has no knowledge of it. She's, I guess, from the 80s too. And I'll ask her stuff from have you heard of this song? Or my trainer, I'll ask her and she has no idea what I'm talking about, you know. So you got me on the Beastie Boys. I'll have just on that one. How about, I love it, the fact that you have some questions about acting in here too. So it's really kind of a eclectic range of knowledge, right? What's the give me an acting question.
Okay, so here we have our Star Trek question. It's a tribute to my dad because he loves Star Trek.
You love Star Trek?
He does, yeah.
No, do you?
Oh, you know, it's not my first choice of what I would sit down and watch, but I see it. I get it. I understand it's popular. So the question is, Jewish actor Leonard Nimoy, who was also a veteran, have a little bit of a fondness for veterans, and he was a veteran, was best known for his role as Spock on Star Trek. Spock was half human, but what was his other half? Was he A, Vulcan, B, Tribble, C, Bajoran, or D, Klingon?
Now, those, again, that was something else. I never followed Star Trek. I wasn't real Trekkie. Were all those other terms Star Trek related?
Yes.
Okay. But that I kind of know where it was. That what A was Vulcan?
Yeah.
I think I've heard that. But really, like, did you watch all the Star Trek movies?
I haven't seen all of them.
Yeah.
The older ones I have, I think.
Yeah. That was just another one. I guess to excel in trivia, you have to kind of be knowledgeable about a lot of different stuff.
I'm telling you, it's the wide knowledge base, not the deep knowledge base.
Well, same thing too. Like, are you good on Jeopardy?
I love Jeopardy.
Yeah, but are you good like with the questions? Because I'm getting such a kick out of it. I was never a big Jeopardy fan, but I'm reading his autobiography, Trebek's autobiography. It's a beautiful book, though. You know, he's truly an amazing guy, but that also would require a knowledge of a wide range of stuff. to be good in that.
Yeah, I love Jeopardy. It's a family
Yeah.
a family activity for us when we're, I mean, it's kind of rare now that we're all together, but when we are, my parents watch it every night. I love it.
Well, I could see us, it's too bad you won't be around. So I could see that being another fundraiser, Jewish Jeopardy show or something like that.
Yeah.
It would have been a fun. I'm sorry I didn't come up with that one. And I'll show, because I told you, like I'm a movie buff. Give me a movie question, if you would, please.
Okay, so this is a fill in the blank question that we used last year. What classic 1980s movie, which was set at a resort in the Catskills, was actually filmed its iconic dance lift scene at Lake Lure?
Right. And I went to, so I know that one. That was Dirty Dancing.
Mhm.
I know that because I went to, they had a Dirty Dancing, not revival, but dance music was at Hendersonville Theater, where our first guest is going to be appearing. And so I remember that they played all the songs from that movie. Great movie. Also, wasn't the star of it, Jennifer Grey is Jewish, I think, too.
She maybe. Thank you. I have to write that one down.
Check it out. I'm pretty sure. I know Swayze wasn't, but Jennifer Grey wasn't. But it's such fun, though, because as I'm talking to you about it, you kind of relive a lot of your moments. Is there a Sandy Koufax question? Or you can't tell me?
We did a Sandy Koufax question last year.
Okay.
But I do have there is a Jackie Robinson question. Obviously, he was not Jewish.
Right.
Was, I think a lot of people considered him, they looked at him as a hero because of the role he played in desegregating baseball.
Right.
And at the time, Jews were also dealing with segregation issues. But there's a really neat Asheville tourist connection to him.
To Jackie Robinson?
Jackie Robinson, yeah. So that's our only Asheville question, but it's written so that it's pretty easy to figure out.
Oh, and we won't give any more.
I think I just gave it away, actually, but it's okay.
I'm just trying to guess, but okay, if somebody's listening, so read everything you know about Jackie Robinson, and you might get one question right. That's key. Very interesting. But so much fun though, just talking to you about it, because boy, it brings back old memories. I mentioned Koufax, and I always remember Koufax as a kid because that was my era. That was not your era. And I always remember I'd had arguments with my parents because I'd want to watch the World Series. And that was the classic. I don't know if you know the story, but he didn't pitch in the World Series because it came on the high holidays. And my mother would say, hey, if Koufax can't, you can't watch. That was her rationale. You can't watch the World Series. Yeah. So that's my one remembrance of it. Fun event. Recap again the highlights of it. So if people are listening to today's show and they want to participate on the, it's tomorrow, right?
Tomorrow night. That's right.
What do they have to do?
Go to www.facebook.com/JFSWNC, and we'll be live at 7:00. You can actually not only donate through our website, but also through Facebook. We have a Facebook fundraiser going on. So lots of ways to give to support JFS. And Blaine, do you mind if I thank our sponsors?
That'd be lovely, please. Yeah.
So I wanted to thank the WNC Bridge Foundation advocate sponsor, Deerfield Episcopal Retirement Community, our patron sponsor, and then sustaining sponsors, Laser Precision Cutting for Citizens Bank, Gaia Goldman, Beverly Hanks Realtor, the Gardner Mountain Getaway, and then a contributing sponsor, Janet Oppenheimer, wonderful board member, along with Gaia Goldman.
And what you said is really kind of cool, but you don't have to be Jewish to participate. And then you mentioned Deerfield is really kind of sweet that they're certainly not, an Episcopalian retirement community.
Yeah, we serve people of all faiths in the region.
Jessica Whitehill, you will certainly be missed, at least by me. So
thank you.
Hopefully our paths will cross at some point in time in the future, or next time I'm in Canton, and I'll pass through Canton, Ohio this summer. So next time I'm in Canton, I'll have to look you up.
Please do.
I'd like to thank also Anthony, the Asheville Medium, for being my guest the first half hour. Also, Amy Prisnosh, my producer. Look forward to having you join me next Wednesday at 9 a.m. here on WPVM 103.7 in Asheville, North Carolina. You can also listen online at WPVMFM.org and watch on WPVM's Facebook page. Hopefully you'll join me tomorrow night at this Jewish trivia event. It's going to be a lot of fun. Jessica, as always, thanks an awful lot. Speak to you soon.
Thank you so much, Blaine.
Be well.
Bye.